When my father passed away, he left me the family ranch. It wasn't the biggest ranch in the county, but it was home. Wide pastures, an old red barn, oak trees swaying in the wind. It was a place where every corner carried memories of him teaching me to ride, teaching me to mend fences, teaching me that land was more than dirt. It was legacy. I worked hard to maintain it. Most days, I'd wake up at dawn, feed the animals, mend what was broken, and breathe in the peace of my land. For me, this wasn't just a property. It was healing. But just over the hill, there was a neighborhood that had grown too fast, full of people who had no respect for the old ways. At the head of it all was her, Karen Whitmore, self-appointed queen of the HOA. She wasn't just bossy, she was ruthless. She believed she had the right to control everything in sight. She didn't like my barn being visible from neighborhood. She didn't like that my land wasn't manicured like a golf course. And worst of all, she didn't like that she couldn't boss me around. The first time she marched up my driveway, clipboard in hand, she tried to tell me I was in violation of community standards. Mom, I told her calmly, this is my land. It's not under your HOA jurisdiction. You don't have any authority here. Her face turned red like I'd slapped her. We'll see about that, she hissed. I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. Weeks later, it started small, loud complaints. Harassment letters. Threats about reporting me. But then came the real ambush. One Saturday I woke up to the ground shaking. I looked out my window and nearly dropped my coffee. 7 full buses were pulling onto my ranch road. The engines roared, brakes hissed, and then hundreds of people came pouring out. Laughing, drinking, holding coolers and speakers. I ran outside. Hey, what do you think you're doing? This is private property. They barely looked at me. Music blasted. Tents popped up. Trash hit the ground. It was a full-on invasion. And then I saw her. Karen, standing by the last bus, sunglasses on, smug smile stretched across her face. This is the HOA annual block party, she announced. And since your land is right next to our community, we decided to use it. Consider it being neighborly. Neighborly? My blood boiled. This is trespassing. Oh please, she smirked. You've got all this land and you don't even use half of it. Think of it as a donation to the community. You should be thanking me for including you. By the end of the day, my pasture was destroyed. Beer cans littered the grass. Fences were trampled, even my barn door was spray-painted with graffiti. That night, I sat on the porch, fists clenched, heart heavy. My father's land ruined. And Karen had the audacity to wave at me on her way out, like she had won. But I knew one thing. She wasn't going to get away with this. The next morning, I went straight to the sheriff's office. Photos in hand, video footage from my trail cams loaded on a flash drive. The sheriff raised his eyebrows as he looked through them. This isn't just trespassing, he muttered. This looks like criminal mischief, vandalism, property damage. Exactly, I said. And I know exactly who orchestrated it. Still, Karen wasn't easy to deal with. When the deputies showed up at her door, she turned the whole thing into a performance. She claimed it was a community misunderstanding. That I had agreed to let them host the party there, and that I was making a scene. The arrogance made my blood boil. But I had evidence. Photos, videos, witnesses. When the case finally went to court, I'll never forget that day. Karen strutted in like she was untouchable, designer handbag on her arm, whispering smugly to her lawyer. She thought her HOA title made her queen of the county. The judge, however, wasn't amused. Karen's lawyer tried everything, painting me as an angry loner, claiming the party was peaceful, even suggesting that my ranch wasn't properly fenced. But when the trail cam footage rolled on the courtroom screen, the entire room went silent. The videos showed the buses rolling in, the people trampling fences, Karen herself laughing as someone spray-painted my barn. The judge leaned forward, her voice sharp as a whip. Mrs. Whitmore, not only did you trespass, but you organized an illegal event, endangered property, and caused extensive damages. You abused your so-called position of authority for personal satisfaction. This court is not only finding you guilty of trespassing and vandalism. We are escalating this to criminal charges." Karen's smug smile vanished. She stammered, her face pale. In that moment, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. For months she had tormented me, tried to humiliate me, treated my family's land like a playground. But now she was finally being held accountable. She was ordered to pay for every bit of damage, plus fines, plus community service. And the criminal record? That was the nail in her coffin. When it was over, I walked out of that courtroom with my head high. My land was still scarred, but justice had been served. Back at the ranch, I stood under the oak tree my father once planted and whispered, "I fought for it, Dad. Just like you taught me. Nobody's going to take this from us." And that's when it hit me. Sometimes the hardest battles aren't fought with fists, but with patience, truth, and the courage to stand your ground. After the court ruling, life on the ranch began to settle again, but the scars remained, not just on the land, though the broken fences, the trampled soil, and the faded graffiti reminded me every morning, but inside me too. For weeks, I wondered why had Karen hated me so much. Why go to such extremes? Why risk criminal charges just to try to prove a point? One afternoon, while I was mending the fence line near the edge of the neighborhood, one of her neighbors walked over. He was a quiet man, older, with tired eyes. He held his cap in his hands and said softly, "You did the right thing, standing up to her. Nobody in that neighborhood ever had the guts." I frowned.
"What do you mean?"
He sighed. "She's been running that HOA like a personal kingdom for years, fining people for their kids' bikes on the sidewalk, threatening single moms over paint colors, even forcing one family to sell their house because they couldn't keep up with her demands. Everyone's been too scared to fight her, until you did." That hit me hard. Suddenly, I understood. This wasn't just about my land. This was about power. Karen had been bullying an entire community, hiding behind the title of HOA president. My ranch was simply the one place she couldn't control, and that drove her wild. And when I stood up to her, it gave others the courage to do the same. Soon, stories began to surface. Neighbors came forward, filing complaints of their own. The HOA board voted to remove Karen from her position. The same woman who once strutted like a queen now faced humiliation, not just from the judge, but from the very people she had ruled over. But the most powerful moment came a month later. I had rebuilt most of the pasture by then. I was out early, fixing the last gate, when a small group from the neighborhood walked up. Parents, kids, even that quiet old man. They carried bags, tools, paintbrushes. "What came to help?" one of the moms said. "You shouldn't have to clean this all alone. After everything you did, it's the least we can do." I didn't know what to say. My chest tightened, and for a moment, I had to look away to keep my emotions from spilling over. Together we worked. Kids picked up trash. Parents painted the barn door back to its bright red. The old man hammered new boards into the fence with me. And for the first time in months, I didn't feel alone. As the sun dipped low and the barn glowed under fresh paint, I realized something my father had always tried to teach me. Land isn't just soil. It's the bond between people, the stories, the stand you take when it matters. Karen tried to destroy that bond. But in the end, she only made it stronger. That night, I sat on the porch, watching the stars, thinking about everything that had happened. The buses, the courtroom, the neighbors rallying together. And then I knew what I wanted to say to anyone who ever hears this story say. When someone tries to trample over you, don't give in. When they try to steal your peace, don't bow down. Stand tall, hold your ground, and believe in what's right. Because bullies eventually fall, and truth always stands. And, sometimes, the fight you think you're fighting for yourself ends up freeing a whole lot of others, too.